All right, everyone, we should be live. We'll make sure that's actually the case before we get into the thick of things. We've got several things to talk about today. We'll be talking about Finland joining NATO, my thoughts on that. I did make an exclusive today, so if you're watching this on YouTube specifically, you can go over to Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, or Minds.com. Now, there are some sirens outside. There must be a fire or a major accident or something, because that's, I think, the fifth that I've heard pass in the last minute. Anyway, let me make sure that we're live on Rumble here. It's always important to make sure. You have to do the encoding thing for each live stream on Rumble. It's the one disadvantage to actually using it for live streaming. I wish they would fix that. Yes, we are in fact live. Hurry up, I have a weight problem, says Morbidly a Beast. I think on both platforms, actually. Anyway, we'll talk first. We'll do a recap here of the news of the day. This is mainly the Super Chat Q&A, so most of it is just me reacting to the Super Chats that people send on YouTube, the Rumble rants people send on Rumble, sometimes also to people on Twitch. Of course, I don't still have it set up for actual tips or anything there. But we do have two things to cover, big bits of news. First and foremost, it is now official. Finland is going to join NATO. They intend to. Turkey has objections. I think the rest of NATO is all on board with them joining. However, I'm not sure exactly why there's an objection there. Could be, Erdogan's just pandering to people as usual. I would like to focus on this for a minute. Here's my belief. Finland is a sovereign nation. When people say that it's some sort of provocation of Russia when Finland joins NATO, I chuckle at this, because the idea is that I guess Finland has to ask Russia's permission before they join a military alliance. Unless Russia feels that NATO is specifically and solely geared towards antagonizing them, they wouldn't have a problem with it. But while many NATO members are active in sending weapons and aid to Ukraine, none of them have gotten militarily directly involved. There is no war at the moment between Russia and NATO. There is no war footing. There's a de facto proxy war, an unfortunate one. However, Finland has the right to do what it wants. When last I checked, Putin did not run the nation of Finland. And it's not really an antagonism in the strategic sense, because, of course, Russia already borders multiple NATO members. Poland, of course, the Baltic states, Ukraine, a loose ally of the NATO countries, although not in the official sense. So, yeah, I mean, Finland's not part of Russia at this point, so I don't understand why Moscow would be mad about the idea. You're focused on Ukraine. Well, it's a little ways away from Finland. Finland's a first world developed country that kicked Russia's ass in the past anyway. I can't imagine that anyone in Russia is nuts enough to attack Finland. So unless you intend to attack them, or you think the Finns are going to, I guess, ski over the border and start sniping people or something, there's no reason why that would be a provocation. So I personally don't see the problem. I don't really give a shit about Finland joining NATO. I don't have a problem with NATO expansionism, actually. It's sort of like if Russia were to join a military alliance in the direct sense, like an official full-on military alliance with China. Who cares? They're both working together anyway. Finland already works with the NATO countries. Same thing, cross-training in the military sense, certainly in the trade sense. How would it be a provocation? Russia can do whatever it wants. Finland can do whatever it wants. The U.S. can do whatever it wants. Within the stringencies of Klaus Schwab's globalism, unfortunately, at the moment, we're trying to fix that. Yes. And yes, I am aware of the dust up with regards to the Buffalo shooting. We'll be talking about that specifically in the context of 4chan, cancel culture, and Richard Spencer. But first, we should probably note that Twitch is also being targeted. Of course, the shooter there, and I'll pull up his name, because it's Peyton Gendron is the suspect in the shooting. 18 years old. If he were a different skin complexion, he'd probably, people would be saying he should get bail. He killed a bunch of people in Buffalo, 12 people, I believe, and it appears to have been fairly obviously racially motivated in his case. He's flying the Azov Battalion's Black Sun and things like that. So when you put out a 180-page manifesto, Generally speaking, you can get a little bit of a cue about the person's mind and where they are. In his case, his mind was a little bit on the loopy side. It appears that large parts of it were lifted from the Christchurch shooter. So a Tarrant there. So that is not a huge surprise. And so every time that there's a mass shooting, a terroristic event, ostensibly, it's unfortunate. But I think the reaction to it has been massively knee-jerk-ism. The reaction to it is basically cancel culture. We have a mass shooting. You can't necessarily right off the bat blame the guns because I guess they're not sure exactly what firearms were used. If it wasn't an AR-15, all of a sudden the anti-gun argument disappears. Even if another sporting rifle, by the way, was used, you'll notice in recent history from the legacy media. But so you pivot to the racial argument, which I mean is cued in here because it's obvious. But then a lot of people are blaming the internet. Oh my God, the free and open internet has caused this. Radicalization is occurring online, on 4chan, and apparently on Twitch, which is massively left-leaning, in which a person without far left views and without mammary glands can't really make a living. We'll go through a couple of super chats here before we go into Richard Spencer, because that's the main thing that I wanted to cover here. Mike Huntu, first chat, Clank, MAGA 2024. Now it's Ultra MAGA now, actually. Diamond and Silk, by the way, didn't get the memo. They're saying, no, it's still just MAGA. It's not Ultra MAGA. No, appropriate it. Ultra MAGA is great. It's a good idea for the right wing to use that. Just saying, as a non-right winger, it has an appeal. Dr. Zeodin, how often do you watch Sleazy P. Martini? I've watched dozens of his pieces. We have some sleazy news in the future, potentially. Just make sure that everything's locked down so that it's official before I announce things. But I think that you and many other people on the channel are going to like it around the time of the midterms. Just saying, wink, wink. Clumsy Vash, can you please go on a small rant about about Pence? With so much going on, I forgot the small reasons why I don't trust him. You'll remember, and it aged like fine wine, that I was one of the people that said that Mike Pence should not be chosen, and it pissed me off enough so that for several weeks I was off the Trump train. I think that my opinion is self-evidently the right one on this subject. I think many Trump fans agree with me now that dragged me at the time. Just saying. Memento Mori, half your audience will cancel you. Ain't nobody gonna cancel the Styx. Clanking goes on forever. I'm one of the biggest names on all of new tech, so I can't be canceled at this point. Nobody can silence me unless they kill me or something like that. Could happen. Whatever. Everyone dies someday, I suppose. Stone's Hexenhammer. We never teamed up. Let's break some bones together. The inevitable toolbox posting I see. Stephen 13, Hyper MAGA. Yes, we have Hyper, Ultra, Mega MAGA in space now. It's the meme is definitely spiraling out of control at the moment. It's better than Let's Go Brandon. Memetically speaking, this is the greatest thing ever, and it was invented. It was invented by Biden's people. That's the great. They spent money and 6 months of effort to coin a meme that actually usurps Let's Go Brandon in terms of leftoid cringe. I love it. Michael Manker, Styx, how do you prepare for videos? Do you write an outline script or just freeform? Keep up the good work and take care of the baby. Yes, the baby's slightly fussy at the moment, but mainly asleep. Mostly it's just freeform. I prefer not to use notes because I find that if I just sort of sit there and get into my zone and rant, things are more coherent. I speak better if I'm not scripted. In other words, another reason I couldn't be a politician, couldn't be like Joe Biden or even Donald Trump, by the way. There are occasions when I have a few notes on hand. That's basically it. And I rarely refer to them because every time I refer to them, it prevents me from my free-flowing sort of stream of consciousness style of delivery. And some people like it and some people don't. I happen to like it because it's easier. And I think, personally, I think that I sound better when I'm doing that. Dinocide 13. Of course, the media covers this as ethnonat. But when a heavily melanated ethnonat runs over 77 people 2 blocks from my home, it's the SUV. Yes, you will notice there are some double standards here. But now is probably not the time to elucidate that because you do have 12 people dead. There was a racial motive. Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. The double standard, we can talk about that later. It'll be self-evident to more and more people. There's a reason why CNN loses so much of its audience day over day. Let's see. Carlo Villa, greetings from Wineland, and once more, congrats for the birth of your daughter. NATO option became topical to us because the overall security situation changed. Not much else to it. I'm assuming that you're Finnish. Yes, Finland is joining NATO partially because of what's happening in Ukraine. It never really had any reason to join before. I mean, Finland's not worried about being invaded per se, but it's a reaction. And the Russians obviously understood that that would be likely to happen if they invaded Ukraine. Yeah. J-Dog, it's bizarre seeing Richard Spencer go from being a boogeyman for the establishment to being a shill for them. I wonder what caused him to do a 180. We will be exploring deeper with my 4 possibilities of why he made the tweet that he made. Don't worry, I'll read it out verbatim, although link in the description. You can read it for yourself ahead of time. It is archived, although there is a live one. You can go and join in the fun on his post on Twitter. Shh. Josh Eternal would like to see you interview with Sydney Watson. Yes, I think we follow each other on Twitter. That'd be cool. The Great Awakening for the little one, and thanks for what you do. Thank you very much. Over on Rumble, we've actually got a couple of Rumble rants. Matt G. Hammond. Have you seen the video where Richard Spencer supported socialism when done right? Yes, I have, by the way. He voted for Biden, too. When are people going to stop calling him right-wing? I think that may be part of the goal, is to pivot from what he considers to be a dying ideology for his accelerationist purposes. Again, I will get into the 4 possibilities that explain his bizarre attack on 4chan. And, of course, I'm directly challenging him. To be clear, I am calling Richard Spencer out. It'd be wonderful to debate the topic. Now that I have the time to do so, now that the baby's born, yes, I would like to debate Richard Spencer on the topic of the free and open internet. It'd be wonderful. And he'll get his ass handed to him, like I've done twice before. Dude has good musical taste, but he's gone off the deep end. Amaru, also on Rumble. Someone should adapt Sabotage's Hall of the Mountain King with all of Trump's accomplishments or sane decision-making. Also, Trump should use the classical song in his campaign. Hail Styx! I think Ride of the Valkyries would be more fitting. Can you imagine how triggered people would be? That would be great. Oh, boy. Oh, my God. It's another Nazi dog whistle. Clearly, Trump wants to kill 6 million people. Icarus 1307. You'd probably agree that the decay of Western civilization is spiritual in nature. I think on a local level, we need to develop schools of philosophy, a new samurai class, mind and body. Thoughts? I think people should get more in shape. I think they should treat their bodies better. I'm a rugged individualist, so I don't believe in creating a samurai class or something like that. No, I would not agree with that. But yes, part of it is spiritual, or at least spiritual in the quasi sense. We no longer teach critical thinking. If you teach someone how to think critically, you don't have to command them all your life. This is why the powers that be don't want to teach that. They want to teach you how to memorize for a test. It's easier to control you. You're taught the right way to do things. At a moment's notice, they can change that right way, confusing the hell out of you, and then they can persecute you if they don't like you. And then you get differential enforcement. They do the same thing with malleable TOS with regards to internet sites, actually. It's the same basic premise, at least. Anyway, got through some super chats here. This will be funny. Oh, there's one more. Opinionated Junkie. Vouch was debate me, bro. Debate me, bro. Now he ignores debate requests since he is big. He is a grifter building his channel off debates. He's also in part funded allegedly by the British government to spread disinformation on behalf of, I don't know, the Western sphere or British Dominion or something like that. What a good American, by the way. Anyway, we'll quote Richard Spencer here. Again, link in the description, cross-platform. One link is the active tweet. You can go and interact with that if you have a Twitter account, which many more of you probably have now in the wake of Elon Musk's announcement. I've gained like 3,000 followers in the last couple of weeks. Just to be clear, it's faster growth than on YouTube, where I'm still algorithmically throttled. The other one is archived in case, I mean, he's been massively ratioed, so he may remove it. This is what Spencer has to say with regards to the Buffalo shooting. The anonymous free-for-all internet has contributed nothing to discourse or society and has become a public health and national security catastrophe. It's past time to shut it down. And this is in response to Vladmut. which said, wait, the guy was radicalized by anti-black right-wing memes, then went into a supermarket and killed a bunch of white people. By the way, fact check, 10 of the victims were black, 2 of them were white, so that's not entirely true. Poll, politically correct on 4chan, by the way, should be shut down, and every right-wing political party should be banned for at least 1 generation. I don't know whether this is hyperbolic in nature, but Richard Spencer does not appear to be hyperbolic in his particular post, saying that the anonymous free-for-all internet is a bad thing. Now, first, I'll react directly. The idea that anonymity on the internet is a boogeyman is age-old. You sound like fucking Bill O'Reilly, dude, when he called 4chan the internet hate machine and said that human trafficking was originating there. No, not really. Just to be clear, I've been using 4chan since 2008, so it's been a while. I've been there the entire time. On random, on B, on politically incorrect, used X, which is the paranormal page some. It tends to be a cringe fest at this point. But I like 4chan, and that's why I'm responding to this. Because no, of course, I wouldn't support censoring 4chan and shutting it down in part or in whole because some asshole decided to kill a bunch of people. You might as well blame Twitch. After all, that's where he was streaming, correct? I don't see Spencer mentioning Twitch, which I'm currently streaming on, coincidentally. I don't see the legacy media being questioned about this. The legacy media peddles nonstop negativity and convinces private citizens that there's an us and a them and that everyone hates one another. And you need to join a side right now, a decreasingly coherent side, because everything's falling apart and everyone's schismatic and everyone hates one another. That's the legacy media doing that. Some random shitposter on 4chan is not going to radicalize anyone who's not nuts to begin with. To be clear, again, after spending 14 years at this point using 4chan, I've never been radicalized by it. My views are the same. Well, how is it that I am immune to this and this moron in Buffalo decides to go off and kill 12 people? It's because he was nuts to begin with. Have you read the Wikipedia article? I hate to refer to it because Wikipedia is terribly unfair and unbalanced. He was already put through psychotherapy several years before because he went nuts and started threatening his classmates and threatening to kill them. He was already homicidal. There's no evidence even that he was using these sites at that particular time. He was already mentally ill. Maybe they had him on antidepressants. Maybe they had him on antipsychotics. You'll notice that there's a huge correlation between school shootings especially, but mass shootings in general, and the use of effectively psychotropic drugs, mind-altering substances that are doled out like candy by pharmaceutical corporations every time someone's a problem child. There's no attempt to teach them critical thinking, self-control. They don't send them to a monastery. They don't send them to the yoga class or something and say, look, you know, you're going to ruin your life. Terrible things are ahead for you. Here, but we'll help you to calm down. We're going to teach you focus. We're going to teach you how to question the world around you in a rational way so that you're more immune to this horse shit that you might see online. But they don't need to go to 4chan for it. They can go to Reddit. Reddit's blaming 4chan right now. There's a long-standing feud there. They don't blame Tumblr. They don't blame all of the leftoid outlets online. They don't blame the legacy media for constantly pandering and trying to push people's buttons. Hey, this other group of people declares with a 72% confidence that they hate your group of people. Quick, you need to join this other group of people that's fighting against them. It's the same thing that happened in Weimar Germany, by the way, actually. The Nazis and the commies, effectively, they played off of fear of one another and thus grew. And the center, the old establishment, eventually crashed and burned. Anyway, I would like to get to a couple of other, let's see here, just a sec. Some more super chats here. I'll get to do them first. Then I'll get into the 4 possibilities that I've documented as to why Richard Spencer would engage in such a wanton moronism. Let's see. Fausch. Mike L2535. I keep missing you live because of work. I'm quitting today. Viva la Styx. Well, I hope that you've got another job lined up because the economy is about to collapse. So good on you. If it makes you happy to quit your job, I hope that you're moving up in the world, though, because the price of rice is going to rise, so to speak. I'm not your buddy guy. People like Richard Spencer have only gained prominence due to the left's rabid anti-white racism. This has driven younger minds to white collectivism. Yes, and the irony is that Spencer is effectively the same kind of Nazbol or Strasserite that the shooter was. He was a left authoritarian. He's talking about commie shit. Not exactly a right winger, except in the sense of not liking people of other skin tones. Sounds a lot like Richard Spencer. Sometimes Spencer sounds like the racist version of Bernie Sanders to me. Not something that I support. Josh Eternal, I'm from Milwaukee. That shooting was gang related. Yes, well, most of them are. That's why they don't get in the news. Oh, drug user killed 5 kids on the kindergarten recess area. Now, that doesn't matter. That happens. It's Chicago. It happens every weekend. Salty Ironworker, thank you for making me politically smarter these past few years. Will China in invading Taiwan? I know you're crazy busy, but any chance of a garden video update? Blessings to you and the family. Thanks again. Well, thank you for that. I don't have a garden here, although there is a yard and there's some, nice plants. It is nice and green. I guess I should probably make an update of it once I maybe clean up some of the weeds that are trying to grow in between the tiles. Anyway, China will not, in my opinion, invade Taiwan, not unless they have to, because China's a rational actor. Taiwan's an island. China does not have a good navy. It's different from Russia and Ukraine. That's a land invasion. Russia has a very good land capability, huge number of tanks, artillery, etc. They also, of course, have their Black Sea Fleet that was already there beforehand, and they could pound the shit out of the Ukrainian Navy and basically destroyed it and captured any ships they didn't sink. It'd be different if China were to invade Taiwan. Also, Taiwan has a whole host of military alliances and defense treaties, something that Ukraine didn't really have because a lot of nations were real reluctant to mint those. I wonder why. Opinionated junkie. Richard went from ethno-state advocating to this. Lol. Well, he's still an ethno-nap. He has just pivoted in his economic views to believing that if he tries to tell white people that they should get more welfare or something like that, that it'll make him more popular. It's kind of cringe. Salty Ironworker, please excuse my horrible typing on the last super chat. It's okay. I knew what you meant. It's all good. Catherine O'Neill sent $20. No chat. Thank you. 3QH The Band, our ultra MAGA rock band, 3/4 High, has just released our first single, Let's Go Brandon, available now on all streaming apps, including YouTube. So yes, 3QH The Band. I guess you can look them up. Your super chat is an investment in your future. Yeah, you should go and subscribe to them. Sounds pretty good. I'll have to take a listen later. We've also got another one actually on Rumble. Rel 21,000. Just emojis today. Thanks for your content. And there are 2 cat emojis. I like kitty cat. Anyway, I wanted to get to the Spencer thing briefly again before I go into more super chats, because that's a basic gist of the Sunday show. I think that there are 4 possible ways in which we can explain why Richard Spencer would haul off and attack 4chan and say that the anonymous internet should go the way of the dinosaur. The first is Fed posting. This is the one that is most often mentioned on 4chan itself. That is that Spencer either is a Fed or has been compromised by the government, possibly as part of a deal. You were at Charlottesville and we could harass you legally, but if you post lukewarm liberal takes, do what we say, and we're not going to investigate you any further. I'm hesitant to believe that's the fact, but that is one possibility that has been brought up, that it's effectively glowy posting to try to attack the free and open internet in order for neoliberals like Joe Biden to censor people that are critical of his authoritarian regime. That's one possibility. The second is accelerationism. He's alluded to this many times in the past. The idea is that if you crack down on every edifice of free speech, you really grind people down. You don't do anything to try to preserve your rights. You actually actively attempt to cause them to be eroded further, that at some breaking point, there's a revolution. And that Spencer believes that, and he did literally allude to this even talking to me at one point during a debate, that he'll be part of some great white oligarchic brotherhood that rebuilds from the ashes, and people will magically realize that his way is better, and that he'll be in a command position, I suppose, and be in charge. Now, I would definitely put him in, if I were a dictator, as music minister, because then Depeche Mode would be, one of your national bands, even if they would technically be immigrants because they're British. That's okay. Sounds fine. But we'll go to the number 3. I don't believe it is likely that he takes this seriously in the accelerationist sense, but it is a possibility, at least. The third, and I think just about as unlikely, is attention seeking. That is, the idea is you antagonize 4chan to get a bunch of threads made about yourself. You get attention. If you're already basically at rock bottom, you've been banned by most of the mainline platforms other than Twitter, which is mysterious and causes some people slight suspicion. If you're not really in the content creation game to the same level that you were, and you still need to make a living, what you do, you get attention. It could be to build clout, because of course you've pivoted to a left authoritarian sort of a Nazbol thing. You're sort of trying to out-progressive the progressives and infect them and just say, look, I'm progressive too, but it should only be among certain ethnic groups, and that would be it'd be basically self-serving. It'd be a career move. I think the most likely, though, is number 4, and that's that Richard Spencer actually dislikes 4chan. He has a stick up his ass about the platform, and here's why. Again, this is part and parcel of me using it for 14 years. 4chan repeatedly talks about Spencer and other e-celeb individuals, including myself, by the way. The reception is largely negative. That is, the perception of people who create content, regardless of what arguments they make, positions that they hold, is generally negative. Because the people that are going to gravitate to the threads about the e-celeb, who will it be? Fans of that person and people who deeply dislike them. There will usually be more people that dislike them based on an ideological basis than are subscribed to them or follow them cross-platform. For me, for example, I'm cast off as being some sort of far-right bigot. There are more people that will look at that proposed ideology, false as though it may be, and say that they therefore don't like me and will attack me on a place like 4chan or Reddit or anywhere else, than will support me because they're familiar with my actual views and support them. Spencer gets the same treatment, along with literally every other independent content creator, independent in the loose sense potentially for someone who allegedly does Fed posting, but we'll get past that and assume it's not true. He looks and he sees all these threads about him. Every time he says something that's, well, like what he says about 4chan, he gets dragged. He gets satirized. He gets mocked and ridiculed. He gets called glowy. He gets called gay in many cases, etc., etc., etc. Maybe he's just snapped. He sees an opportunity to attack a site that is overwhelmingly negative towards him, receiving whatever he has to say, and he's salty about it. And that's what I think is ultimately the most likely explanation. I don't think it's Fed posting. I don't think it's that he's actually gone off the deep end into accelerationism land. I think that that's a gimmick. I don't think that he's particularly attention-seeking, although by proxy he will. I think it's just that he doesn't like 4chan. He just has a stick up his ass about it. He has PTSD about several years of nonstop ridicule of him getting punched and saying, oh, what a weakling, the leftist punched him out, and stuff like that. And then later on, people dragging him over Charlottesville, people dragging him over his attempt to pivot away from the alt-right, which is dead at this point, to effectively a cringy version of the alt-left. And I think that that's what's happening here. I think that he genuinely dislikes 4chan for the negative exposure that he gets there. And he doesn't understand that that's inevitable. And if 4chan weren't there, by the way, those people would go elsewhere and post the same thing. They'd go to 8chan or any of a million other sites. They'd make their own site. It's not going to go away. If anything, 4chan is above board enough at this point that if you're really genuinely worried about extremism or something, well, it's there for public consumption. You can monitor it. Legacy media firms have individuals that park on 4chan, especially on Politically Correct and B, and just monitor things. They get paid to shitpost on 4chan. Well, they're already being monitored. What's the problem? It's better, air out the laundry. It's better in the fresh air, isn't it? And I take offense to it because I love 4chan. I've been using it again for many, many years. I shitpost literally on B. I am one of the log posters. Yes, I will confirm I post Andy6 log of shit threads regularly. Pretty much every day. I've posted thousands of them. I find this a good use of my time because it's funny. And people react negatively, and it's just you're getting their goat and stuff. It's a joke. On Politically Incorrect, There are times when I go through and I find really good news. I found breaking news on 4chan's Politically Incorrect before they literally scoop the legacy media by half an hour, maybe an hour, because they've got local hookups. Some person is in Buffalo. They can break the news about the fact that there's an active shooting sometimes 10, 15 minutes before you hear about it on any mainline network, because that mainline network has to get it from the local affiliate. Local affiliate calls regional, regional calls the heads, and they have to talk really quickly in an impromptu meeting and say, oh my God, how are we going to spin this for Joe Biden? Well, 4chan users don't have that problem. It's invaluable to me as a content creator. I'm going to tell you, I get a fairly large amount of inspiration from 4chan. No, absolutely, I don't want it to go the way of the dinosaur. It's way more helpful than a moron site like Reddit or something like that, a dumbass karma system. Anonymous posting is great. You get the real truth when people are able to speak and they know that nobody knows who they are speaking. I've done plenty of anonymous posting on there. Catherine O'Neill sent another $20, actually, without a comment. Thank you. Julian D. Chiara. Hi, do you think Richard Spencer is a glowy? He is astroturfed into relevancy the day after the Trump election win and was on the BBC front page. I don't think that was astroturfing. If there's any Fed posting at all, it's because he was threatened and compromised after Charlottesville. But I don't allege that. There's no need to allege that. I don't have any evidence one way or the other. I think that in this particular instance, he literally just dislikes 4chan. Literally. He has a stick up his ass about the site because they mock him. And if that were to happen, every content creator in the world would have to talk shit about 4chan. I see threads about me on a regular basis on there. You think that most of the posting is positive? The people that participate, that park on the site and actually have some notification on for when there's a thread revolving around me, mostly are not going to be fans. They're going to be people that are critics. Well, yeah, you fucking get used to it, dude. Grow some thicker skin. Nebulius, the Discord server Radicalized groomed him. Yeah, he was on Discord as well. So why not blame Discord? And Discord's a hot mess anyway. I mean, the site completely sucks. The setup on Discord is so arcane. It's like the worst possible ripoff of it's a combination of Skype and an old wave chat room and everything else, but the kitchen sink tossed together and somehow made worse. I don't understand the appeal, honestly, of Discord. J-Dog, fog of war aside, it's quite clear at this point that Russia is doing poorly in Ukraine and really shatters the illusion that its military really is the brute fighting machine we've thought of it as. I agree in large part, but did you have to realize that Russia is not just fending off Ukrainians? At this point, it's fending off millions of battle-hardened partisans that are using high-grade Western equipment. Under such circumstances, it would be difficult to imagine any military prevailing in a foreign land, regardless of their supply lines, by the way. Elmar001, getting Trump back in would be like setting America from low to ultra. Yes, exactly. We need Trump 2024. And then Rand Paul thereafter, and then DeSantis after that. I would clank with the commemorative spoon, but, it's in a case, so I'll overlook it at the moment. Oh, lime drink is good. The Grizzly. Will you think that the lay liberals and left-leaning independents will sour on the neoliberals ever? Or are they just indoctrinated on thinking drones and capable of critical thought? The leftoids have already soured on the neolibs. Did you see Anna Kasparian's rant last week? Went off and said, basically, the Democrats don't care about us. They don't care about you. They're just as bad as the Republicans. Great. All of that money that the DNC paid to the Young Turks, and they still get dragged by Anna Kasparian. And Jenks over there, he's trying to opine, and he doesn't dare to interrupt her because he knows it'll get called sexist. That was pretty funny, in all honesty. And 2 out of 2. There's a big civil war through the Imperium, and the Emperor is mortally wounded, being put on psychic iron lung, and is slowly turned into a god figure for a religion he never wanted at all. I'm assuming that's some sort of Warhammer reference, I guess. Lance Johnson, thank you from Finland. I wish happiness to you, Liz, and your little baby. Well, thank you very much. There's a great deal of happiness, especially when everyone is sleepy. Mad, mutually assured destruction. Why do the most fervent pro-Ukraine virtue signalers generally overlap with neoliberals? Is it rooted in Trump-Russia conspiracy theories? Yes, that's the absolute reason. A lot of the people that are flying Ukrainian flags on their Twitter usernames, They don't know anything about the sociopolitics of the situation. They don't know anything about the historical backdrop of the split between Ukraine and Russia, Kiev and Rus, and so forth. They know nothing about the history. They were just told that Donald Trump equals Russia. And so naturally, they support Ukraine. Now, I support Ukraine, too, in the sense that they're a sovereign nation, and it's wrong that they were attacked. And I don't believe the denazification, Eastern separatist horseshit that Russia peddles. That being said, we're on the brink of destruction, and we're effectively engaging in acts of war against a foreign nuclear state. It's incredibly dangerous. Ukraine appears to be winning anyway, so I don't understand why we need to send them $40 billion. It's just not, it's not necessary. Can't even find baby formula. You're going to send, the price of a large city to a foreign nation. Mad, mutually assured destruction. Also, I've taken up lime drinks too. Delicious, thanks. Yes, chilled water and the juice of one lime. And that's all you need for a good day. And it is rather warm right now for the time of year. So, you need something that's refreshing. Stephen 13, Russia is winning. They are taking a slow and methodical approach, killing about an entire Ukraine battalion a day. That remains to be seen. I'm slightly skeptical of basically all of the casualty numbers that we get, regardless of who's releasing them. There's no reason to believe that Russia is specifically winning, though. If you use up a considerable proportion of your entire land-based military, losing a large number of command in the process, in order to, release a couple of small eastern provinces that are economically backwards from the supposed tyranny of NATO or something, and you end up beefing up NATO in the process by possibly 2 or 3 more nations, what the hell have you gained? That's not strategy at all. It doesn't even make any sense. We have several more on Rumble. I'll try to read them out, even though it always goes to the bottom every time someone comments. Matt G. Hammond. Have you seen some of the same people mentioning Spencer in the past and the shooter now are trying to tie Tucker Carlson to white replacement theory? Yes, they're attacking Tucker Carlson, but he's usually the whipping boy for such things. These people don't even know anything about independent content creators. All they know is that Tucker Carlson bad because Tucker Carlson generally supported Trump. And he happens to be a big figure on a mainline network, and so they target him. He's not even that unique. He's controlled opposition, in my opinion. Matt G. Hammond, when I have heard Tucker mention white replacement, it is when attacking globalists and not the people coming to the U.S. Yeah, definitely. He's he's just a neocon. If they think Tucker Carlson is out there, my goodness. Ranchard Shadaloo, what are your thoughts on the New York Post report that Putin is ill with blood cancer? I don't have any thoughts because, these reports are a dime a dozen. There was also a report years ago that Donald Trump had Russian hookers piss on the Obama's bed. There are reports all the time that the government's just about to disclose about UFOs. I don't give a shit what reports state. They're usually wrong, you'll know. And these are the reports that are used by the legacy media ostensibly in many cases. So you should take what CNN and Fox say with a grain of salt most of the time. Adonis Adams, aside from your own works, what, in your opinion, is an essential occult read? I've mentioned a couple of them that I haven't edited. The Black Arts by Richard Cavendish would be one. That would be probably the best work. The Book of Ceremonial Magic by A.E. Waite. That would be another one. I edited the prior version, which I can't remember the exact name of it, was actually a DeLawrence work he had published through DeLawrence's company. Some of his work's still banned in parts of the Caribbean, by the way, because he's so spooky, by the way. And the DeLawrence company still exists. They still release works and herbs and stuff like that. I think over 100 years that they've been running now. Pretty successful man. A little bit of a charlatan at times, plagiarist, but very successful. But Wade, I guess, soured on the idea of marketing it as a black magic work, so he released the Book of Ceremonial Magic. It's very complete. It's very good. Let's see, some other work. So, I mean, I'm fond of my own compilations because I handpicked them. But I guess those would be the two big ones that I haven't myself edited. Book of Ceremonial Magic and Black Arts by Cavendish. Let's see. Oh, God, we actually got through the Super Chats for a moment, of course. So just a recap for people that are just joining, of course, and there are several thousand people. Keep in mind that Finland has just joined NATO. or officially petition to join NATO. They're fast tracking it. They'll be in at some point in the near future. Russia's issuing threats. I support Finland on this. They have every right to do whatever the hell they want. They're a sovereign nation. They don't need Vladimir's permission to do what they want with their nation. You can think NATO bad, but they have a right to join it if they choose to do so. And it seems that there's widespread support among the lay people. It's not just the political movement there wants to warmonger or something. And then Richard Spencer has completely goddamn lost it and sold out. In my opinion, it's because he genuinely hates 4chan, because he gets ridiculed there on the reg, which is sad because, you know, if you use it regularly and you have any clout at all, there'll be threads about you and you'll get ridiculed. That's the name of the game. The ridicule is part of the fun of being a content creator anyway. I love it when people put like laptop salvation scam threads up on 4chan. There's some Canadian poster who, for almost half a decade now, has fixated obsessively on me and constantly talks about, it's a satirical post, it's only half critical, about how, because I fundraised my the last laptop, the one that I'm using now, how I'm basically a shyster and compares me to a televangelist. And the idea is that basically I'm telling people that I'll give them immortality or something if they give me money, and then really all I do is buy more and more laptops. I find this funny, though. I mean, it's tongue-in-cheek, it's entertaining, it's original, it becomes copy pasta at some point. But no, 4chan's not a boogeyman. There aren't a bunch of terrorists using 4chan to try to infiltrate us or, you know, kill your kids or anything. If anything, they're using Twitter more than 4chan. They're using Facebook, or Meta, as it's now called. Ma Russia, oh God, oh Jesus. So yes, I stand with 4chan. I stand with absolute free speech and the anonymity that it offers. I believe in an anonymous internet. In fact, there should be less identities on the internet for many purposes outside of explicit social media. That way people give more honest opinions. We'll be able to take the pulse of the population more easily. Jameson4420, yo Styx, congrats to you and Liz on the baby. How did the meatball subs turn out a week or so ago? Sounds delish. They were fantastic. Just don't eat them with asparagus soup, though. I had a little bit of a tummy ache after I did that. No, it was really good. Nice sweet sauce. Meatballs perfectly done. You do them most of the way first in like a pan. Then you add them to the sauce and slow cook it. You have to reduce it to the right consistency. And there was plenty of onion and also a huge amount of fenugreek. That's important. And you have to toast the buns. You can roast them in the oven. You can use a pan and butter if you really want to. I think that's a little bit more artisanal. There are no buns here for like subs that you can actually part in such a way that you can do that without it becoming effectively nothing more than a sloppy joe, though. So I just used the oven. It was good. Yeah, people mentioning the MAGA King thing. I covered that this morning. The leftists actually spent millions of dollars in 6 months coining the term Ultra MAGA and MAGA King to describe Trump, the latter term. Much to the chagrin of all leftoids as they realized, hey, that's not actually an insult. It actually sounds kind of cool. Speaking of 4chan, there was a fake thread earlier claiming that CNN was quoting Jen Psaki as talking about Ultra MAGA and trying to refine what it meant as being like, oh, ultra testosterone, hypermasculine and tough. That tweet, I fact-checked it, and sadly it doesn't exist. But the thing is, the fact that I had to fact-check it shows my faith in CNN to not make an absolute ass of itself. So I figured it was funny anyway. It was a good shoop. Keys, I'm here late, so apologize if this was mentioned, but do you think the new law just brought up in New York in regards to carry for citizens is a little coincidental? If you mean the impending SCOTUS decision on concealed carry, no, I don't find that suspicious. That was minted many, many moons ago. That entered before the court, I think last year, actually. It takes SCOTUS a while to consider things. And I don't expect that the Buffalo shooting will change the trajectory. I think the concealed carry will become the law of the land. They may do a strict or a loose interpretation. Loose would be, okay, you have to issue the permit. That punts the issue ahead. What the blue states will do is simply massively increase the price of the permitting, and then there will be a separate case later. My hope is that they pass constitutional carry as opposed to shall issue. That means there will be no permitting process. It is self-evident that you have the right to carry a firearm at all times on yourself concealed, and you do not need permission. You don't need to file a fee. You don't need a piece of paper saying that you're allowed to do so. That's self-evidently the meaning of the Second Amendment. Cheese. I think Biden is connected to actual Nazis that settled in Delaware after the war. I have evidence of this, and I plan on making a Substack explaining. Well, definitely message me if you make a Substack, if you've actually got evidence of that. I don't really care if his family were Nazis or something. I care more that Biden's demented and insane. But it'd be interesting. Yeah. So message me with your Substack once you author that. Orange Grove 55. Will Elon buying Twitter hurt alt tech? Big draw to alt tech is freedom, but with Twitter assumingly getting more free, could that hurt alt tech? Well, we use the term new tech now. No, I don't think so. You may see some users flock back to Twitter, but by and large, the more puristic side is going to stay in new tech. And you got to understand the difference between like Twitter and BitChute or something. Twitter is the instant response sort of, especially phone generation, low info based thing. It's not quite social media. It's not a hosting site. So it wouldn't affect BitChute, Odyssey, or anything like that. It may technically compete with Minds, certainly with Gab or Parler or something. It wouldn't affect Substack. It wouldn't affect alt fundraising sites. So most of new tech wouldn't be affected by it. If anything, they might be helped because then Twitter might stop, for instance, blocking BitChute links. Right now you have to use shoot rocks. Otherwise, there's a warning label on it. Well, maybe that'll change. Mad, mutually assured destruction. Summer is at hand. Are you going to be taking the grill pill while meat supplies last? I typically just cook the meat in the pan. I like to do that in the kitchen. Comes out perfectly fine. I don't have a grill. Of course, I don't really have enough room out back to safely use a grill because there's a wooden shed there and wooden fences. I don't think that would be a good idea. Anyway, I've never grilled before, actually, other than hot dogs, so I probably would fail at it. I'll just stick to what I know best. Micros112. Styx, it is my opinion that militarized drones are just as morally abhorrent as nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. Your thoughts on the matter? It depends on what they're loaded with, what their payload is. If they had a nuclear, chemical, or biological payload, then yes, absolutely. The use of drones in and of itself is no more problematic than the use of aircraft. Initially, when aircraft first entered in military service, in the early 20th century, initially they were only used for reconnaissance. They were unarmed, other than having a sidearm in case he crashes behind enemy lines. The pilot didn't have a machine gun. There were no dogfights or anything like that. Then they started dropping TNT on enemy armies in the trenches. And then they got the idea of having machine guns, and they started having dogfights for anti-air, essentially. And people at the time thought this was uncivilized, ungentlemanly, and it's a terrible escalation. Same thing with at sea, submarines and so forth, ironclads. The idea of rules of engagement, bullshit. There are none. The goal of a military is to win. In war, kill the enemy better than they kill you. That's the only goal. Conventions with regards to human rights should only apply to civilians anyway. You've signed up to go die for your country. Does it really matter if you get hit by a grenade that was dropped out of a plane or thrown by a man? Does it matter if the missile that hit you was fired from 100 miles away off of a launching system, or whether it was fired from a couple miles above you by a Predator drone? You're still dead. What's the difference? Dr. Zeodin just wanted to give you money. Well, I thank you for that and gladly accept your offer. Not a banned account. Will Cold War II go with hot or nuclear this year? We don't know whether that will happen. We can hope that it doesn't. Although there'll definitely be a lot more glowing ones ranting about 4chan if we have a nuclear war, I suppose. Keys, thanks for the answer. Been checking in with you before 2016. You won me a lot of money betting on Trump. Haha. Well, thank you for spreading the wealth around to your favorite content creator. Anorax Zorona, by the way, on Twitch. Oh, dude, grilled stuff can be really good. Got to experiment. Yeah, I mean, I would sometime, although with the price of meat being as high as it is, I don't know. If you fuck up that experimental steak, you might have to go without a meal next time. Thanks, Joe Biden. Not a banned account. When will you sell Styxhexenhammer body pillows? Yeah, I'll team up with Mike Lindell for that. He's a grifter, so he'd probably market it if he thought there was money to be made. I mean, literally, I think he probably would do something like that. As you can tell, I'm not a huge Mike Lindell fan. That's because I have standards. Not a banned account. If World War III happens, which countries get hit the worst? Whichever ones are directly involved and their extended military allies. For instance, let's say that Russia and the United States come to blows. I would expect the Netherlands would get hit in Amsterdam. This would cause the dikes to break, flooding about a third of the country, and turning about 20% more of it into nothing more than a tidal zone, which means that it would be uninhabitable for any civilized purpose. Here in Anshade, we're above sea level enough and far enough away we'd survive. I would just get heavily irradiated, but ultimately we'd probably make it. You know, you have potassium iodide and shit, and scavenge the wasteland, scavenge the tidal pools. Every time the tide comes in, entire homes full of shit wash up on the shore. And there's a lot of fish, and you don't need a fishing pole because you can see them from a mile away because they glow in the dark. We can look at the beneficial side of a nuclear war, I suppose. I would say the US and Russia and China would be the big recipients of the most bombs. But that's like obvious. It's low-hanging fruit. I think it'd be surprisingly predictable what would happen in a nuclear war. By the way, everyone, please don't send any more super chats because we're up about 50 minutes and I've still got a bunch to go through here. Prada Babe, do you have a shipping address for people to send you stuff? No, I do not have a P.O. box set up at this time. Also, the mail system in this country is nuts. So wait until I'm back in the United States. Although, I mean, you can send it to my Rutland address, 444 Chisana Drive. Don't worry, it got doxed many, many years ago. That's because I doxed myself knowing that it was coming anyway. I mean, if you want, you can send things for me there. If it's perishable, though, it'll probably rot in the box. So anything else, yeah, you can send it to my Rutland address. It's available for the public. There's no hiding it anyway. So Corporal Poon, stay away from seed oils and make ghee. Yeah, ghee looks good. I prefer to use butter for many things, but there are certain things that need olive oil. I know it's a seed oil, yeah, terrible for you. Okay, olive oil is not bad for you. Having a little bit of olive oil in the pasta and stuff is a good thing. It's tasty, reasonable. Astral Walker, did you hear the cringy song a few bands did together about Zelensky called The Man with the Iron Balls? Cringe alert. Yeah, no, the thing is, like, Zelensky's a strong leader, but he's also corrupt. You know, you can have it both ways. Just tell the truth. Nobody wants to do that, though. By the way, at the moment, we've got about 2,800 people cross-platform watching. Yeah, definitely more than are going to be watching fucking Joe Biden's next address. RD Doctor, why is liberalism in crisis? Is it just the left? Liberalism, I don't know if you mean in the classical sense or in the sense of like U.S. liberals. Well, the U.S. liberals are embattled by the left. They made promises to them for years. They never fulfilled them. And mostly it worked because they could always say, look, the other guys are more scary. That's beginning to change because at least insofar as working rights and certain other issues, the populist right has actually outmaneuvered the neoliberals in catering to that crowd. They've also abandoned gun control by and large because they feel threatened by the evil right-wing Nazis, so they want more guns. Well, I agree with them on something. The left is correct. Absolutely. I want you all to have 1911 pistols and Glocks, AR-15s, or any other AR. Buy them all. Guns are cool. They're fun. Mad, mutually assured destruction. Have you heard of Anthony Cumia in the Compound Media? I bet he'd love to interview you. Yes, I've heard of Anthony Cumia, of course. Yeah, if he gets in touch, you can send me a Twitter DM if you let him know. Yeah, I'm interested. Josh, TV tropes is overrun by leftoids. Change my mind. I don't know what TV tropes is. Not a banned account. About how many glowies do you think watch you? I'm sure that there's a CIA handler that watches the channel. It's the best educated CIA handler in the CIA, I like to think. You know, while he's snorting his lines of coke, he's getting a proper education on real issues. Or she. I won't misgender anyone. It's probably, they probably have the crazy old man. The one that also works as the night janitor. The one that watches my videos. Maybe I've radicalized some FBI janitors or something like that. Now they become rugged individualists. Clean up your own mess. This violates the NAP when you piss on the floor in your cubicle. Joshua San Filippo, now that you are a parent, would you rather send your daughter to an Alabama religious private school or a California public school? That's a good question. I mean, I prefer homeschool tutoring and things like that. Let's see. So religious school that won't teach basic math and will teach, religion in a more than comparative sense, indoctrination, or a shitty public school overrun by drugs and crime that will teach you that 2 + 2 = whatever the hell you want, and then try to groom your kid. I'll go with the Alabama religious school because at least they're not getting groomed there. And I'll tell you another reason why. It's much easier to resist the machinations of propaganda from that perspective, because the religious thing tends to be so over the top anyway, that when they come home and they have the Jesus homework, you can just say, look, you got to do the homework to get your grade, but this is horseshit. If you do that in California, you probably get a visit from the feds or something like that. Alabama wouldn't care so much. So yeah, I'll take I'll take the one-room schoolhouse. Not a banned account. Will President Harris be inaugurated this year? Oh, Lord, let us all hope not. Every single time she gets quoted, it's her repeating herself in 5 different ways and trailing off and not knowing what the hell she's saying. She's more demented than Joe Biden. I'm like, oh, pray every night for Joe Biden's good health, for him to continue being, smelling the daisies from above, because look at all the alternative to what that means. There are people that viscerally hate Joe Biden, I guarantee, and genuinely religious people that literally pray for his health, because they're looking at the alternative and saying, oh shit, we're fucked if she gets into the Oval Office. Not that she wouldn't be a pawn too, she'd still be a puppet, but she'd be a much more dangerous one. Maxwell Smart. Yeah, I remember Get Smart. That was a good show. Anyway, I think I'm going to go off now. Got through a lot of super chats. Complained about Richard Spencer. I support 4chan completely. I think that politically incorrect is a good force in the world. And by the way, they've definitely done me a solid. Hundreds of my videos are based on news that I first saw there. It's not all just, believe it or not, me looking up RCP. Great aggregator, lots of good stuff there. But when there's stuff to fill in, where do you go? 4chan's politically incorrect. And no, it's not radicalizing people and all that stupid shit. They're getting radicalized by CNN, especially by MSNBC. They're getting radicalized by Joy Reid into thinking their next door neighbor happens to be a Nazi because they flew the US flag and it wasn't the 4th of July. So cry me a river, dude. As far as Spencer goes, he's gone off the deep end. And so I've officially called him out, and I would love a debate with him on the topic of the free and open and anonymous internet. I mean, it'll definitely be blood sports. Be the greatest debate ever. One last one. Sparky, Biden is the most competent in his administration. No, I disagree. I think Buttigieg is. I think they're grooming him for an eventual presidential run. Right now, he's too busy running the trains. Wink, wink. That's about all. Peace out.